Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And what's up? Welcome in GC Live Monday episode of the show. South Carolina Gamecocks coming off of a victory over Furman. Plenty to get to as far as that is concerned, and plenty to get to with our special guest. South Carolina quarterback Spencer Rattler will be joining us at about 2:15. If you're listening on the podcast, that'll be in theory in about 13 minutes. So looking forward to hearing from Spencer. We've done several of these with Spencer, be it on the radio, be it pre-recorded. I think this might be the first time he's been on GC Live, actually live. So looking forward to hearing from him. Obviously, a great start to the season for Rattler. If you have questions for Spencer, put them in the chat. We're going to pick one or two, if y'all have good ones, to ask the SEC Offensive Player of the Week, as was announced a couple of hours ago. This show, as always, brought to you by our buddy Clint Hammond of Movement Mortgage, clint.hammond.com, 803-771-6933. Appreciate Clint and his support, as always, of both Gamecock Central and GC Live. We got several awesome sponsors we're going to tell you about throughout the show. And, of course, Chris, we got to mention Garnet Trust, too. Go to GarnetTrust.com. Follow on Twitter at The Garnet Trust. As always, Spencer Rattler's appearances are brought to you by Garnet Trust. I saw lots of Garnet Trust in the stadium on Saturday for the first time as part of that deal with USC Athletics. So obviously, if you are looking for a way to directly support South Carolina student athletes, go check out GarnetTrust.com. They've got many, many options for you. Appreciate them making this appearance for Spencer possible. Chris, we'll dive into the game first. Then obviously we'll talk to Spencer, and then I guess we'll give some closing thoughts on the game after that. But I'll start with you, man. Big picture thoughts there being in the stadium and then rewatching South Carolina's what ultimately ended up being a blowout win over Furman.
First of all, man, let's start here. Kudos to Gamecock fans because that was a great atmosphere. You know, sometimes a game announced as a sellout and you go, when you actually get into the stadium or if you're watching a game on television that is supposedly sold out. This one was pretty packed, man. Really good showing from the student section, which we knew that had set a record for claim tickets. And then this game was a sellout. USC did a really good job of promoting it, and it showed in the stands. So really good atmosphere for a game that, all due respect to Furman, of course, is not one of the, marquee home matchups. It's not a SEC night game, which, by the way, Wes, Mississippi State, 7:30 kickoff in a couple weeks. That was just announced as well. So they will have an SEC night game, at least one, in Williams-Brice Stadium this year. But yeah, that's the starting point. Really good crowd. And, there's a lot to dissect in this game. We got to see a lot of young guys. We got to see some standout performances. But let's not gloss over the fact that the Gamecocks did get a win here. Shane Beamer, Dowell Loggins, Clayton White, Pete Limbo, and the players, in their public comments last week, all had indicated that, hey, yes, this is an FCS team, but it's one of the better FCS teams in the country. I think they came in the top 10. I think they were ranked number 6. And they're a good ball club. It's a game that I said this going in, South Carolina should win. And certainly they did. And I think that was the big takeaway, Wes, where there's some early kind of groany moments in the stadium with some of the, having to punt a couple times and giving up the long double pass and giving up a touchdown drive after that. Sure. But ultimately, and I think we'll ask Spencer about this when he comes on, getting that extra score, kind of stealing a score before the half was big. And ultimately, this is one that I think that really, really put things kind of out of reach for Furman, even going into halftime. This is a game that South Carolina could have, easily been tied or just up 6 going into halftime. They got that extra score, which was huge, I think. And then they really came out and looked like a different team where they were able to pull starters and get deep into the bench into this game, which I think was a positive, Wes. And honestly, gave us a lot of content talking about some freshmen and some new guys.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows we cover recruiting. We love following roster management and looking ahead. This is these games are fun for me personally, man. I like kind of getting a look at the guys at the college level for the first time in a lot of cases, certainly the first time at the college level against a real opponent. So it was a great opportunity for that. And we'll get into all that as the show goes on. Along those same lines, man, I think that does a ton for team morale. And, I want to ask Spencer about that. Like you said, I want to ask him about the end of half situation. Not only was the end of half situation key for this game, but I do think that's something you maybe lean on moving forward. That was great experience for, in this case, the first team offense. Like we talk about this game being great experience for some of the backups in the second half, but they actually got two late, like end of half, end of game, real life offensive situations. You thought they were just going to have the one, but then they score, defense forces a 3 and out. Offense actually, as opposed to just going into the half, they decide to take a shot, and they ended up with like basically kind of a 2-minute, 3-minute type situation to work through. Then they ended up with a 25-second situation to get to work through as well, which I think those are things you can lean on. Those are things you can practice it all you want. Beamer talked about in the post game, situational football. They practice that stuff all the time. They practice it actually ones versus ones, good on good, you call it. But there really is no true comparison to actually going out there and doing it with fans in the stands, dealing with all the variables that are going to pop up in that situation. You're not in a controlled environment. And, I just thought that it was a really good opportunity for the first team offense. And then they got to feel good about just executing it very well in both times.
Well, I'll tell you what was helpful, Wes. You had 17 out there that you could throw the ball to, and we'll definitely ask Spencer about that. But just to give my take on it, that's pretty helpful, right? When you've got a guy of his physical ability playing like he is, in game one, you saw it, right? I mean, if you're Spencer Rattler, you've seen this guy, you know what he can do in practice. You've seen the glimpses in the games. You see what he did game one against North Carolina, surpassing last year's yardage total for every single game, all 13. You've already surpassed that in one game. I think that chemistry, that bond, that trust level between those two is only growing. And I think the Furman game will only serve to continue growing that, right? But Xavier Legette's transitioned into a big time player and a guy that, for Spencer Rattler, he can be confident in throwing the football up, that Xavier Legette's going to have a great chance to go ahead and make that play. You look at the downfield ball that he threw, you look at, throwing it up again, getting the pass interference call, getting yourself in range. This offense is playing, I think, with some confidence, and you like what you've seen from the receivers. You like what you've seen, obviously, from number 7 and Spencer Rattler. There are obviously some other things to clean up. The offensive line, I thought they cleaned up to a degree against Furman. Some of that had to do with the opponent level, and you're going to ratchet that up 10 times against Georgia, obviously. But I think that this was a game that, probably helped you build a little bit that confidence, helped you, figure out some things, helped Dowell Loggins figured out some things and the rest of this team. But no doubt those scores kind of with the shortened clock, with some urgency, definitely helped. And I think, like I said earlier, man, it gave South Carolina a little bit more of a cushion going into the half. When they came out second half, it really looked like a different team, because not only were they able to open it up offensively, but defensively, were there some things to clean up? Sure. But defensively, the team, of course, played a lot better as well.
Yeah, they did. Man, I thought early on they kind of got caught, obviously, with a very similar, if not the same play to ECU a couple of years ago. And, I mean, credit where it's due. I feel like a great timely call by Furman. Your home game, sold out. Defense is maybe a little bit antsy, a little bit jazzed up, and then they hit you with a play that is absolutely built to get you being a little too over aggressive. And they executed it. Credit where it's due. That set them up. South Carolina even made them work after they got the first down there near the goal line. Took 4 downs for them to punch it in. Credit to them. I thought they kind of threw the kitchen sink at South Carolina early on. They were downfield. They were running double reverses. They were faking reverses. I mean, they really had a good plan for South Carolina, but it felt like once the defense settled in and the offense was really able to answer for them. So, yeah, defense gives up an early score. Offense answers for you. Defense, it goes down. South Carolina goes down 14-7. Offense answers again. And that really allowed them to just settle in and play their game, I thought. And, Furman got the ball out quick, but there was still some pressure on their quarterback. We called him gritty going in. I mean, I thought he lived up to that. Like, this dude was taking some shots and not the biggest guy in the world, probably a little fibbing on his size, I think, as far as what he's listed at.
Yeah.
Getting just smashed by Stone Blanton, getting chased down by Brian Thomas Jr. This guy kept going, kept firing in there. So that's a good Furman football team. Even when Carolina was down, I felt like you sort of, Chris, even down 14-7, I didn't feel like South Carolina was like in danger of losing the game. Like, it really felt like they were going to take control at some point. But I say that not taking anything away from Furman. Like, I think in their conference, like, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. They usually are, but you could definitely tell that team is, I think, going to make a run and was probably a good balance of being a good test for South Carolina in terms of they're a well-coached veteran bunch, while also being a team that obviously South Carolina had the talent advantage against.
Yeah, they're so well coached. They just don't make a lot of mistakes, and I think that showed through even in their play calling, defensively, offensively. They ran that little tunnel screen, Wes, that I asked TJ Sanders on the Garnet Trust Hour a few minutes ago about it, and he just started rolling his eyes. He was frustrated with it. They're doing a lot of cut blocking, right? Like, they did some things that frustrated South Carolina, but to the defense's credit, they hung in there. They played a lot better the second half. One of the plays was, I mean, they count just like the other ones, Wes, but one of the plays was, the long double pass or, to the running back to the receiver. And then they had their other score came late when the game was, not in the balance at all, and came after a South Carolina turnover. So you held them to one drive, which was pretty good, I think, Wes. Hey, before we bring in Spencer Rattler, and take just a minute to tell you about a new partner we have here on the show. It is our buddy Trey Harrell, auto accident attorney right here in South Carolina. Wes, we ran into Trey and his daughter up in Charlotte for the season opener. Great guy. Also a very helpful guy, because Trey Harrell helps folks injured in auto accidents all over Gamecock country and all over South Carolina. You can find him at attorneyharrell.com or on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Trey Helps. If you've unfortunately been injured in an auto accident in the Palmetto State, don't go at it alone. Find you an attorney who's going to fight for you, and who's going to fight to get you what you deserve. Find you an attorney who helps. And remember that Trey Helps. That's Trey Helps on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok, or attorneyharrell.com. Appreciate attorney Trey Harrell helping us to bring you GC Live.
All right, I see him down there. Let's go ahead. Or actually, I don't see him right now. Spencer, give me a thumbs up when you're ready for us to bring you live, man. Let's see. I think he's getting settled in. Let's go ahead. We'll try to bring him in. Spencer, what's up, man? How you doing?
What's going on, guys?
Oh, not much, man. So, yeah, we are just heads up. We're already live. We're rolling. Gamecock Nation tuning in, man. Obviously, we appreciate you doing this. SEC Offensive Player of the Week this week. So, I guess just in general, man, obviously we've all seen it, but how have you felt like you've sort of settled in, and how's the season going for you so far, just in your words?
Yeah, man, it's been super fun, actually getting to go against somebody else the first 2 weeks. I know we didn't have the outcome we wanted our first week, but I think we showed flashes and knew what we were good at, knew what we had to clean up. And I feel like going into week 2, we really wanted to clean everything up, especially before this week. So we use that kind of as a tune-up game and try to get things right. And, we were clicking on all cylinders. It was a fun game.
Spencer, I actually talked to TJ Sanders from the defense earlier today, who had some really good things to say about you, by the way, just to let you know. And he said that he called them first game shenanigans, right? So we were talking a little bit about the defense and what they had to clean up. You mentioned cleaning up things offensively, but how much of the first game stuff that we saw do you attribute to maybe, I don't know if you'll use TJ's terminology with first game shenanigans, but how much do you attribute that to just being game one? And then how much do you feel like y'all did clean up in game two against Furman?
I think TJ's right. The first game shenanigans, whatever he said, I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, you see it across the country, and a lot of first games. There's a lot of mistakes, a lot of MEs and stuff we can clean up. I mean, even yesterday with the NFL, so much bad ball, I guess you could say, for week one, but that's just part of it. We as an offense, I think we did good with protecting the ball. I mean, we had no turnovers, so that's a positive. I think we had more explosive plays than North Carolina week one, and less turnovers. So, I mean, it's crazy how we lost the game, but we had chances to win it, and we didn't play good enough. But first game shenanigans, I guess is a good quote for it. But we definitely cleaned up week two.
Spencer, you and Dal Loggins have kind of talked all off season about the kind of partnership you guys have. I feel like though, whenever there's a new coach, new coordinator, there's always that positive talk, but it's another thing to be able to take it into the games kind of as smoothly as y'all have so far with it being a new offense, new offensive coordinator, new play caller. What is it about the two of you and how y'all have kind of been able to be in sync already that has just let it kind of hit so smoothly against real opponents right off the bat?
Mm-hmm. I think first off, he's a great coach. Communicates really well, knows our player strengths. I know I've told you guys that before. And, I like how he gets the ball in my hand and lets me kind of do my thing. And that's awesome. It's fun for me. And, also with all our we have so many weapons. So, I mean, his job ain't that hard with all these guys we got. But, yeah, he's a great coach, great leader, great man. And, just we worked it in the spring, we worked it in the summer, and, we found what we're good at. And, we just got to keep building on that.
Yeah, you gave me a great natural segue to talk about one of those playmakers. Xavier Legette, man, he has been lights out in the first two games. And I think anybody who's seen Xavier play, seen those glimpses in games, seen in practice, heard things behind the scenes about his athleticism knows, right, like that he's capable of doing these things. It's not a huge surprise, but he's put it together 2 weeks straight. He's put it together 2 weeks straight in a big way too. So give us your take on how Xavier's performed and just your confidence level in him. It seems like you feel like you can just throw it up to him and he's coming down with it.
Yeah, I mean, he got so much better in the off season. I mean, he had a great ending to the year. In the Notre Dame game, he made a lot of plays. So he built his confidence, later in the year last year. But this off season, I don't think I've seen anybody work as hard as him. And he put the time in, he put the work in, and it's coming to fruition right now. He's doing his thing, and I trust him, not just him, but a lot of other guys. But yeah, man, he's been our top playmaker, and I expect nothing less from him.
It seemed like Spencer, y'all part of the game plan early on, especially, was to get the ball out there quick on the perimeters to guys like Legette, AB, Juice. Then obviously, I thought Eddie Lewis had a good game on Saturday as well. How nice is it to just kind of sit back there as a quarterback and know you're not going to have to kind of force feed the ball to one guy? You can kind of take what the defense gives and just kind of spread the ball around and let those guys go do what they do.
Yeah, early on, we want to get the ball out, get it on the perimeter. We could do a lot of different things, but a lot of those were RPOs and some screens and stuff like that. But with the playmakers we got on the perimeter, I mean, you can dish it out there, and there's nothing better than throwing short and going long or getting 10, 12 yards a pop on those. And we're still improving on those type of plays. But yeah, I mean, it just gives a whole nother weapon to the offense when you can just spit it out there and those guys can go make plays.
Spence, you also had a couple little social media viral moments after the game too that you were featured on. So in the locker room after the game, Coach Beamer gave you a game ball. Funny video there that Gamecock football put out on their social media channels. But did you know your stats after the game? Like, you looked like you might have been a little surprised even. Did you know?
Yeah, I knew him. I think my boy Tanner at halftime, Tanner Bailey was like, man, not to like blow your head up right now or get anything off track, but you're like 23, 25, 270. I was like, okay, well, let's keep going. Let's keep going. And I wanted to keep that as clean as I could. And, shout out to the O-line. They played their butts off, kept me clean all night. I don't think I got sacked all night, which is good. Guys made plays, like you said, Eddie Lewis, Legette. Everybody was making plays. So that's awesome. And then, it was a cool moment. Get a game ball. It's always special.
Yeah, man. So obviously the atmosphere too on Saturday. To be a home opener, but against an FCS opponent. I know Furman, they came in with a good team, man. No offense to them, but just being an FCS opponent, some stadiums you maybe don't get the packed house, you don't get quite the atmosphere y'all had on Saturday. What did you think just playing in front of those fans again this week? I know you've seen it before, but I thought it was an incredible atmosphere from this fan base, considering pretty much everything I just said.
It was awesome. It's always awesome to step in that field. I feel like every game sold out. The vibes, the energy the fans bring help us so much. And also what Chance Miller and Justin King and those guys did with the walkout in our locker room with the light show and all that. That stuff was awesome. Got the crowd pumped up, got us pumped up. So the vibes are always high in Willie B, and I'm happy we could get a W. First one in there this season.
All right, Spencer. So we're not trying to put you on the spot too much, but a lot of Gamecock fans have been weighing in on the new cocky entrance, right? So I don't know how much you got to see of that while you were kind of in the zone right before the game, or if you went back and watched it later. But do you have a review or a strong opinion on the new cocky entrance?
I think I saw Coach Beamer, showed us a little bit of it. I think it was Thursday or Friday of what it's going to be.
Okay.
What did he roll in on a cockaboose?
Yeah, he had a little cockaboose. Yeah, he had the the train, and then the car on the back of it came out, ran around a little bit. So it's pretty cool.
I think it's cool. I think it's something the fans like, and we don't pay too much attention to that, on the field before the game, but I think it's something fun and definitely something, good idea, So, I feel good about it.
Yeah, you're a little bit unique for sure.
Yep.
So on the field, Spencer, end of half situation. I gotta think as much as y'all work on situational football in practice, it was nice to have actually two opportunities and convert on them both at the end of the first half. How good was that just to get that experience in a game against an opponent and to see your team and yourself execute and maybe being something y'all can lean on? Because obviously you're gonna have end of half, end of game scenarios, probably multiple times going forward this season.
Yeah, like you said, it's something we work every day. Every week we work 2 minutes, and I feel like we, do a great job in practice. Finishing those drives and getting to our goal of either a field goal, to win it or tie it or get up before half, or a touchdown to go up before half. We always want a touchdown. So for us to go down, I think we had 27 seconds, go about 80 yards. It's pretty impressive from our group. Shout out to Coach Beamer for trusting us and using those timeouts in a great way. And then obviously with Dow calling those plays to get us down there and making two big time plays. And congrats to Omega on this, first touchdown catch and Willie B. It was awesome.
Yeah, a lot of newness in the game with some guys that were able to see either their first career action or their first extended action. So I know you got to, sit and kind of chill. Spencer, at the end of this game, second half, you got to kind of put the hat on and just hang out and watch some ball. And so that was the other viral moment, actually, I was going to mention. So Lenora Sellers came in, threw his first couple touchdown passes. And I know you were showing him some love on the sideline after the first one. So give us this has actually been a pretty common question from several of our subscribers at Gamecock Central and listeners and viewers. They want to know how you rated that throw by Lenoris and what you were thinking during it.
Oh, it was a 10 out of 10. It was a bomb, 65-yard throw. We know, he's got a big arm, confident player. So, and that was actually like his third progression. He worked left to right, had some time and put it down there to Tyshawn to go make a play. And, two young guys made a good play. That was a great throw. I was hyped for him.
So I got to imagine it had to be a pretty special moment for you and Luke Doty earlier in the game that you were able to connect with Luke. You are both obviously in the quarterback room, man. everybody knows how Luke, attacks things and works his tail off and doing all these different things on the team. So how happy, first of all, were you for Luke, and what was that moment like? I saw you like sprinting down the field to meet him after you threw it. And also, what were you thinking when you saw him? Because it looked like he like broke wide open. Perfect throw, perfect catch. Had to just be a really cool moment for both of you guys.
It was a great moment. He puts in the work every single day. He's a great leader on this team, and he's all about the team. Whatever he can do to help us, he'll do. So credit to him. He works so hard, does everything right. You can trust him on the field. I feel like we think the same way. So if he sees something at receiver, I'm probably seeing the same thing. So it works well with each other. When he's out there and he ran a good route. I think the DB pushed his teammate down. So it made it easy for us just to kind of put it up there. Had a lot of time, and he broke wide open. It felt like the ball was in the air for 10 seconds. He was waiting for it, got in the end zone. It was a special moment. I'm happy for him.
It was a hand catch too, man. No cradling the thing. Like he went up, he reached out there, plucked it.
That's right. He can catch the ball. Yeah.
Natural receiver. He's looked really good. All right, so we may have some more Furman questions, Wes. I'm gonna push us forward a little bit to talk about what's coming up with the game against Georgia. How you feel going into this one, man? I know you're going to be asked this later this week. You guys have a day off now. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday practices. Friday walkthrough. Go down to Athens. How are you feeling going into this game? And what do you feel like? Kind of maybe a couple little early keys that you're really honing in on without giving away, obviously, anything on the game plan for this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel good. The group feels good. It's good to get a win under our belt. Obviously, still got some stuff to clean up. We'll have to scheme for this group we got on Saturday. It's a great team, great defense. So we're gonna have to be, playing very clean football, execute on a high level. But our focus is just on us right now. We got to focus on us and do what we do best.
Spencer, have you been to Athens before? I was trying to think. I don't think you would have played there before.
I've never been there.
I guess, there's got to be, like you said, an asset of just, hey, it's just another game. But at the same time, any extra excitement for playing in some of these SEC atmospheres and going in there and trying to execute at one of the, really cool venues, I think.
Of course. Getting to play a back-to-back national champion, go out there and just give it your all. That's all we can do. Go out there, play clean, execute at a high level, and play our best ball and see where it falls from there.
I do want to go back a little bit, Spencer, but this is a question that, we'll probably see more of these guys as the season goes on. But you mentioned the offensive line earlier. Craig Godwin in the chat asked about Tree Babalade and Tro Ball. And so those guys got their first extended action as freshmen. First of all, man, those guys do not look like freshmen, especially on the offensive line. But you shouted out the O-line for their improved performance this week. But what did you think of Tro and Tree, during the game and then kind of looking back at the film from this week?
Yeah, those are two grown men. Like you said, they don't look like freshmen. Both of them about 320, 330, smart players. Just motivated, they want to do good. They want to be good for our team. And, you'll see a lot more of them, this Saturday and the rest of the year.
Chris, I know we got to let Spencer get out of here shortly. I think I'm about out. I guess my last one here, man. What do you think it does for team morale, Spencer, that the backups got to play? Then you look out there, fourth quarter, some walk-on guys, some guys that just probably work just as hard as everybody else, but don't always get to play. They get to go out there in front of their friends and family, maybe make a lifetime moment as well, a lifetime memory. What do you think it does going into practice this Tuesday, knowing that just so many guys kind of got to have some of their hard work pay off and get to play in Willie B?
That's one of, our favorite parts of the game, seeing those young guys go in, seeing guys that don't get as much time, but like you said, work just as hard, if not harder than all of us. It's tough to be a walk-on. It's tough to be a guy that's a fourth, fifth string guy. They work their butts off and every single week. So it's awesome to see guys like, Ben Rollins, I know Peyton Mangum's on scholarship, but him make a play in the game. A lot of guys going out there playing. So, it's awesome. And hopefully we can do that more this year.
Yeah, heck of a catch by Ben Rollins on that play, actually. All right, Spence, before we let you get out of here, as we told everyone, you are here because of your agreement with Garnet Trust, guys at GarnetTrust.com. So just wanted to give you an opportunity to, I know we got some Garnet Trust supporters here in the live chat, so just wanted to give you an opportunity to shout out those folks too over at Garnet Trust and all their supporters.
Yeah, big shout out to Garnet Trust. I mean, like I said, it's a big reason on why I'm back. A lot of guys are back, and you guys help our team so much, help our school so much. I mean, it doesn't go unnoticed. The work we put in, you guys see it, and you guys show love and take care of us, and it's awesome. We always are appreciative, and let's keep this thing rolling, man.
Spencer, as always, man, we appreciate the time. I know Monday's like the day off, but I imagine there's not really any full days off. What do you have next for the day? It's 2:30 in the afternoon. What do you get a little bit of time to unplug, or is it right back into Georgia?
I got my massage this morning. So knocked that out, went to the facility, got some lunch, talk with Dial a little bit. So I'm pretty much done for the day. I'm gonna rest the body and get ready for tomorrow.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, we all look forward to watching this Saturday in Athens. I know Gamecock fans out here appreciate you, man. We appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Spencer.
All right, Gamecock quarterback Spencer Rattler joining us. Appreciate him. As always, hopping on. Brought to you by Garnet Trust. I'm trying to get me and Chris both up here.
There
I
we
don't
go.
know. There we go.
You're good.
Act like it's my first time on air or something. But appreciate Spencer. Apparently the light has gone out here as well. So Chris,
you look very dramatic right now. Like, you know what I mean?
well, I was trying to just use the natural light because it looks way better than actual light. But when the sun goes behind a cloud, this is what you get. But anyway, Michael weighing in on the chat saying superstar. If you want to sum up Spencer's performance so far, that is probably the best way to do it, Chris. I mean, he has carried himself on the field and off the field like the 5-star, like the number 1 quarterback in the country, what more could you ask? Like I'm sitting here saying, what more could we say about the way Spencer has played? But what more could you ask if you are this staff?
Nothing. I mean, really nothing. And, Dow Loggins and Shane Beamer, especially Loggins, man, he really got kind of into the weeds, so to speak, on just why he's so confident because of number 7. All the things that he's felt like he could put on him from a schematic standpoint, everything from, hey, there's not a throw that Spencer can't make, or there's not a situation where you say, I don't know if he can escape this or make an off schedule or play or an off platform throw. Like, he can do all those things, but then he can administer your offense. And you can tell, I mean, he's looked like the player that we saw at the end of last season, just in terms of his confidence level. And the biggest thing, Wes, I think, is taking care of the football, right? Just extremely efficient throwing the football, extremely confident. And then he's been able to hit some shot plays and some explosive plays too. And Wes, I mean, you go back to game 1, everybody was disappointed. Fans, staff, players, everyone disappointed in that loss in the week 1 performance. But the reason that South Carolina was able to stay in that game despite playing so poorly in many areas was because of number 7. And really, I think you contextualize it, it was pretty remarkable what he was able to do given those circumstances. And I was talking with TJ Sanders about this earlier, man, on the Garnet Trust Hour on 107.5 The Game. If South Carolina had won game 1, A, this team would have probably a lot more hype right now, and B, you would see Spencer Rattler have a lot more hype attached to his name. But in kind of the Columbia bubble right now, Wes, people know. People are seeing the difference. People are recognizing. And so we'll see where that goes. A big opportunity this weekend, obviously, against Georgia. I think we'll see more well-deserved. I don't like using the word hype. Sometimes it makes it seem undeserved. More buzz nationally around Spencer Rattler if he can turn in another quality performance, win or lose, against Georgia this weekend.
Well, and I think, Dow Loggins, if there's one thing that I've started to notice about him, Chris, and, every coordinator, I feel like after you watch them play, or watch them coach, I should say, watch their offense on the field, you start to get a little feel for what their personality is as a play caller. And I get the impression that Loggins is not a guy who is going to be too patient. And I mean this in a good way. What I mean by this, he's not going to be too patient in just forcing something that is not there. And yes, I think we saw a little bit in week 1. He tried to stick to the running game just because you have to try to have some semblance of a running game, right? Week 1, you're still trying to figure out what you are. I thought Saturday night, it felt like they were working on the running game a little bit. Like, let's try to bring this thing along. But it also felt to me like already he is well aware. If Carolina's going to win big games, it's going to be, as he kept saying last week, 7-17, right? Right now, those are your best weapons. And then you really have below those guys several other weapons who can help as well, but mostly are involved in the passing game, right? So I think all those short throws we saw early, the kind of lulling them to sleep and then going down the field, all those things, in my opinion, I didn't even realize how many of those were RPOs. Spencer just mentioned that in the interview. I think that's what this offense is going to have to be until they, maybe by the end of the year, we're still talking about there's no running game. But
Yeah.
I think they're hoping as the year progresses, maybe you get more and more young guys comfortable up front. That can be a work in progress. That is the final word of that progress, right? Like you see the progress. But right now, going into Georgia, I just don't feel like Loggins is going to be some guy that says, oh, we have to run the ball 25 times because that's what the book on football says you have to do. If Rattler is the only way to win this game, then I feel like he's going to say, put it on 7.
Well, and here's the reality, man. Like and we're starting to get into Georgia like
Getting ahead of
scouting
ourselves, aren't we?
reports. We are a little bit, but that's fine. I mean, I'm taking it there. But you made a point that made me have something to say about it here. So, I mean, you look at Georgia, every team's different for Georgia, but one thing we do know under Kirby Smart in the last few years, they have been basically as close to impossible to run the football on as you can possibly be. And I remember last season, we gave some stats on that. I don't know if you remember them off the top of your head, Wes, but basically they just you don't run the football on these guys very often. And so it's kind of silly to say for a team that has not run the football well overall in the first 2 games, below average in those categories, you're not going to magically say, well, if we just go up there and play a lot better, we'll run the football. No. You were going to ride the horse that got you here, and it is 7, it is 17. Now, can you have, what we saw week 1 against North Carolina in terms of rushing and expect to beat Georgia? Probably not, even with a superhuman performance for Spencer Rattler. You have to be able to run the football some, but in playing to your strengths, which is something that Rattler's talked about, something Dowell Loggins has talked about, a lot of the players, Shane Beamer, we've talked about it a lot, Wes, right? Like that was the biggest difference that we all anticipated, is that this offense was going to kind of be centered around what Spencer Rattler does well. That has been the case, right? Like game 1, I know I see all the negatives. I recognize them. And it pretty much almost exclusively had to do with problems up front, not Spencer Rattler. And so you want to ride his strengths, play to his strengths. I think we can say that we have seen that through the first couple weeks. Now it's about adding to that. It's about giving him some more help, developing some more guys around him, getting Wes a fully 100% full go Juice Wells, I think is a big part of that equation. And then trying to find some more answers in the run game as things go on.
No doubt. And wow, we got a lot to still hit. We maybe still be hitting Furman on Wednesday. At this rate, I know we got a lot to hit. I felt like we ran out of time on the radio show. I think we're going to run out of time today as well. But before we get too ahead, Chris, our friends at Liberty Tax have been a great sponsor here on the show. 803-462-5576. Obviously, tax time, not that nearby, but if you have had life changes, that could really lead to a big tax bill, whether that's marriage, whether that's divorce, whether that's new job, side jobs, all the above. If you have a complicated or a new tax situation, then our friends at Liberty Tax, 803-462-5576, can go ahead and help you get planned for what is ahead. And Chris, you and your family went ahead and got a good plan going with Larry already, right?
Yeah, it's not tax time, but actually, Wes, kinda. And you know why? Estimated taxes. Free reminder for everybody. If you are an individual, has to pay estimated taxes. September 15th is one of your dates. So, Wes, right now in my cell phone, I have a text with our man Larry from Liberty Tax discussing the upcoming plan, discussing estimated taxes. He and his team, man, they do an awesome job. Great service to the folks that they work with, including myself. 2 locations, both on St. Andrews Road, spread out from each other. Very convenient, very helpful, very knowledgeable. 803-462-5576. That's our friend Larry and Liberty Tax.
Yeah, appreciate them as always. And we'll have more from them as the season goes on and as we get even closer to tax time. All right, so let's see. Let's try to hit on some things we already hit on earlier today, but also hit on some things we missed. I want to kind of get past the receivers. We've talked about them a lot, but real quick, I kind of, Chris, almost feel like it's not too early to say, and this is not that big of an if based on what we've seen. So if AB is fine and it's not a lingering thing, and if Juice Wells returns to form, I actually think this could be a potentially all-time type receiving core for South Carolina. If you look at the step Legette has made and you look at what Juice did last year, throw in AB, who has definitely taken a step forward. I thought he had the drop against North Carolina. Everybody remembers that. But otherwise, I think he's looked fantastic. Eddie Lewis looked really good on Saturday night. Luke Doty making progress. Omega Blake had a rough game 1, but had his first touchdown catch in game 2. Let's just lump in the true freshmen. Those guys will continue to progress. But I'm mainly looking at those top 3, plus now Luke and Eddie Lewis coming along. Like that's right up there with any group in modern South Carolina football history if they all play to their capability. I wouldn't have said that going into preseason, but with the step that Legette has made, I'm actually already ready to say that.
That's a good point. And I haven't heard that said. But I mean, I can get there. I agree. I mean, you think about some of the groups they've had, in the last, I don't know, 10 years or so, Wes, and there's definitely some good ones, right? I think you can even think about the trio that they had of a Debo Samuel, Brian Edwards, Shi Smith, but that group overall underperformed because the offense wasn't very good at times. And then you throw in, Hayden Hurst was on those teams too, right? But you see these guys and you see the fact that you've got 7 throwing to them. That helps, right? That'll help you level up. There's a lot of potential there. And it's a group, West, that has a lot of experience. Guys that have played a lot of football. Xavier Legette has been here a while. Marion Brown being a senior. Juice Wells having played several years of college football. Even a guy like Doty, who isn't super experienced at receiver, but has the high school receiver background. He spent some time in different spots at South Carolina going through it. Eddie Lewis has obviously played a lot of college football. So a nice blend of skill sets and obviously the experience to back it up. The key for those guys, Wes, get healthy. Get healthy, stay completely healthy. And if you can get something in the run game and this isn't an offense that has to be great at running the football. And they're not going to be. But this needs to be a serviceable run team, and they need to be serviceable, solid up front. And that part, I think, is still a work in progress, but you definitely like what they have at the receiving core. Wes, I think you like what they have at tight end in the passing game, and you feel like there's still some things to be unlocked there as well.
Yeah, it's been a little bit quiet for those guys, I think, a little more quiet than I expected. But yeah, I think you're right. They'll have their breakout at some point, I think. And some of that's just going to be based on matchups and defenses and what scheme the other team's running. I mean, Legette has quickly become, like, moving forward, he's probably the guy coordinators start circling and saying, don't let 17 beat you. That's not really something coordinators were probably saying coming into the season. So I'll be curious to see how defenses adjust to dealing with Legette being on the field and what he's done so far. Spencer talked about the moment with Doty. Awesome moment, obviously, for Luke. Awesome moment for both those guys. But I want to take that a step forward, man. I think if he wants it, I think Luke Doty has a true future at the wide receiver position. We've seen guys make the move, obviously, from quarterback to receiver. Fairly common transition when a guy's not playing. But I think a lot of times it becomes like almost a gimmick or a package, or it's not always something that is sustainable. I'm watching Doty with limited reps at the college level playing receiver, and I'm saying, why can't this guy be an actual difference maker moving forward at receiver? So maybe the team first mindset and the being willing to do everything that's asked of him, combined with just, let's be honest, Luke's a natural freak athlete who gets the most out of it by working his tail off. I think he's got a future at receiver, man, if he wants it.
I think so too, Wes. And I would love to see the version of Luke Doty where he can be in that room full time, in practice at wide receiver full time. Now, you do understand why the staff feels like they have to walk that line, right? I mean, it is, even if you don't agree with it, even if you say, well, Luke should just go be a wide receiver full time, you could understand the argument because behind Spencer Rattler, there's not experience, right? Luke Doty is your guy that comes back who's actually played against Georgia and has SEC experience. We saw Lenora Sellers, right? We see his talent. They have other quarterbacks on this team that have talent, but he's the guy that has multiple games of experience and, meaningful experience. But he's just an athletic guy. People around the program are not really surprised, honestly, Wes, by this success because they saw it some in practice in the preseason. But he's athletic. He's reliable. He's going to run the right routes. You saw the other night, Spencer was joking about it. The Furman defenders did kind of run into each other, but it was a really good route. Like, I thought it was a well-designed play. It was blocked well up front, and then Luke did a really good job running that route, catching the football. So he's just dependable. And even against UNC, man, he didn't play a lot of snaps at receiver, but he caught a few balls, and he's just been really efficient, and he's made an impact when he's actually been on the field out there. So, if I had a vote, Wes, I'm all for seeing more of it for sure.
Man, I don't want to give Dow Loggins credit for like reinventing the wheel, but there have been a couple of little pass concepts so far. We're already like, that was pretty nasty, and it was well called. I don't even know what the comment. If y'all go back and rewatch the game, they have a beautiful, just slow motion replay of that little route combination, and it kind of looked like there was almost just going to be like a little mesh route or something, and then Doty turns it completely upfield. Had the Furman guy, like Spencer said, I guess ran into his own player or fell, but it was because they were confused and they tried to jump the short route because South Carolina had been going underneath all game long. And then Luke just runs right by him. And obviously Spencer made the throw and Luke made the catch. But that I'm with you. That was a beautiful design and perfect timing on calling that play as well. So, yeah, I like what I've seen out of Loggins through 2 games. I know it's early, but I think there is a lot to like about the game plan on offense. Let's see. We didn't talk near enough about defense earlier today, Chris. Let's try to show these guys some love. Like we said, they settled in as the game went on. Actually, the numbers stopping the run looked great. Linebackers continue to run around. They did get Pup Howard in there. They got Bam Martin Scott in there, sort of start to ease them in. I like the fact we've started to see a little rotation in the secondary, at least at corner. Judge Collier was on the field early, Chris. Like, he's the third corner right now as a true freshman. And so I think that's noteworthy. And then I feel like Debo Williams, who obviously is not a freshman by any means, but is playing a much bigger role than at any point earlier in his career. And then somebody that is a freshman, Jalen Kilgore, I feel like we are watching them emerge as difference makers, like right before our very eyes.
Yeah, the guys have definitely developed and stepped up. And, Jalen Kilgore, that situation kind of reminds you of Nick Eamon last year, where your starter goes down extremely early. And here comes this big, talented freshman who's never played college football, but has a lot of promise onto the field, and they respond. And so I think I think Jalen Kilgore and Debo, those two guys that you mentioned, each of those guys has led the Gamecocks in tackles each of the last two games. They've traded off on that. Jalen's, signing him, he's an instant hit. And he's going to be a guy, West, that when Nicky Manwari comes back, I think the staff's going to be looking around going, all right, I think we got to find a way to get this guy back on the field. He doesn't need to be standing beside Clayton White holding a clipboard or waiting to go in when somebody's banged up. He needs to be on the field. So figuring that out, good problem to have. But Debo's developed. Stone Blanton's developed. You got Marcellus Style out there. OD Fortune's coming along for sure and has played some football. So a good bit to clean up still, Wes. I think still need more answers at the edge position. Still got to play better in some areas. Even, opponent notwithstanding, I feel like the staff does think that they cleaned some things up from a technique standpoint from week 1 to week 2. And overall, it was a more positive performance.
Man, Kilgore, his just a natural ability, or maybe it's taught, maybe he's just, I don't know if he's naturally technically sound or he's just been coached up that well already, but his ability to just wrap up and tackle people, like there are several times with him so far where I've just been like, that is a form tackle. He gets his head around, he wraps up, he holds on. He's delivering some physicality, but he's not this guy that's sitting there trying to just pop the guy so hard that he doesn't wrap up and then, he stays up. I mean, it is, to me, off the charts impressive how technically sound he is already. I'm with you, man. They're going to have some decisions to make about how they structure things once everybody's healthy there. You certainly hope that a guy like David Spalding can get healthy as well. He's been banged up for most of last year, been banged up this year, but is a great kid and a great player. You're going to have some decisions, but man, Kilgore, I don't think you're going to be able to take him off the field. Then the natural thought would be what Preston says here. I like to see DQ at nickel. Then you just slide Nicky, leave Jalen in there at safety. I think that is the natural progression here. Let me throw out one thought. Dude, I think Jalen Kilgore could be a superstar nickel. Like, I think his coverage ability, his natural coverage ability, putting it at that spot long term, like he brings a nice skill set to that spot. Now, that would be, I don't know if you want to do that mid-season. Like, I think the easiest, most natural thing would be just to let Kilgore stay at safety. DQ has played a ton of nickels so far in his career. That's probably the natural move, but they're going to potentially, if they get those guys back healthy, if everybody in that room's healthy, they kind of have some good but hard decisions to make, I think.
Yeah, that's a good classification, good but hard. And, it's about always talk about finding West the best 5, right? And so best 5 in the secondary if you're playing 5 guys back there, which South Carolina does. And so when you look at who are their best 5, well, we know Nicky Manwari is one of those when he's on the field, and we know Dial and Fortune are, and we know DQ Smith is in there. And so far, based on what we've seen, Jalen Kilgore has been another one of those. Austin's exactly right that you popped up there on the chat, Wes. Kawan Banks, he gave them a shot in the arm. It was interesting that Shane Beamer said in the North Carolina game after Spalding went down, hey, we played Kawan Banks more than we thought we would, more than we anticipated. But man, I seem to be impressed by Kawan Banks every time he comes into the game. It just seems like he makes plays. Seems like he makes things happen. Kind of a versatile guy, a smaller guy, but he can cover. He has a knack for getting guys that are bigger than him just down on the ground. So I like what we've seen from Kawan Banks too. So it'll be interesting to see how he factors in going forward as well in this defensive back room.
Yeah, man, I just like watching Kawan play, Chris. Like, everybody that's ever met me knows I'm a small dude, so I have like super extra respect for guys like Juju McDowell and guys like Kawan Banks who are just smaller in stature, but Kawan throws himself around, man. Like there is no fear with this guy. If South Carolina would have somehow come back and beat North Carolina, you would have said his interception was one of the plays that completely turned that game around. If it had played out differently after that, seems like he's a no fear guy. Like he just runs out there and plays his tail off. Versatile, right? Like he can play different spots for you. They're still figuring out cornerback. Obviously, it seems like Kawan's settled in at nickel, but in a pinch, I feel like if they had to, they could just be like, Kawan, go play corner, and he'd find a way to hang in there. We've seen him line up. I think he lined up, if I remember right, last year at safety a little bit, maybe in some dime packages. He was on the field, so can kind of do it all for you, which is obviously a great trait for him to have. We'll talk big picture defensive stuff as the week progresses and moving into Georgia. But with us being recruiting guys, Chris, I think we got to spend at least a little bit more time before we get out of here on the true freshmen. We got our first glimpse at a bunch of them in different, different variety of number of snaps, but still, Zay McLeod had an interception in the game. So he got his first opportunity to get out there and made a moment, made a memory there. But rightfully so, in the section I was in, Lenoris Sellers was the buzz.
Hey, let me give you a story real quick about Zay McLeod before we spend a lot of time on Lenoris Sellers.
Spend an hour on Lenoris.
TJ, yeah, hour 2. TJ Sanders told me today that Zay McLeod called his shot that morning at breakfast.
No.
He said, yes. He said, TJ was rolling his eyes a little bit. He said that Zay said, yeah, we were at breakfast, and Zay said, I'm going to get a pick tonight. And they were like, what? You're a defensive tackle. But he got one. He stole it from Pup, too. Apparently, Pup said, hey, I'll let him have it. I don't want the ball to hit the ground. So it was a good play, though. Good play by Terrell Dawkins to tip that ball. But, dude, yeah, so the interesting about this freshman class, Carolina's got a lot of their best players are upperclassmen, right? Xavier Legette, Spencer Rattler, right? The list goes on and on. There's several of them. But, man, you look at some positions and the guys with the highest upside, with the most talent are freshmen. And some of these are guys that will help this season increasingly as the year goes on. I think they'll continue to come along. But just long term, it makes you feel good about things. You look at, DJ Braswell, got our first look at him. You can tell, Wes, it's not like he carried the ball 20 times and got 100 yards. Just the burst, you can tell. The offensive lineman, we haven't seen Marquis Anderson, but Tree Babalade, Trovon Ball, they don't look like freshmen. You can see the athleticism. You can see the upside. A guy like Pup Howard, right? Jalen Kilgore, who we talked about. Bakari Swain played some in this game. But Lenoris Sellers is the guy out of this 2023 class, and it's an impressive class, no doubt, with, I think, a lot of hits. But, man, Lenoris Sellers, I think, can be a generational type talent. I've tried even to play devil's advocate with myself and just be like, well, if this or if that, or here's a couple of things. I think he just simply checks every box that you're looking for in a quarterback. He has the size, he has the arm, He's got great athleticism. He's got great football IQ. And I think, Wes, you couple that with his just kind of laid back, cool confidence, he's going to be something. And I think he showed what he could be with it just in 4 passes on Saturday night. That's all it took to kind of show the magic that he can bring.
Yeah, that ball he threw, man, just go outside and take a football and just throw it as far as you can, like any average person. And then think about how far he threw that ball with a flick. Like that was great. And the fact he even had the guts to throw the thing when he had 20 yards of grass in front of him and just dropped it in there with perfect accuracy. Tyshawn Russell ran right under it. Most people that try to throw that ball, it usually either lands far right out of bounds or it ends up being short, I feel like. And I mean, that thing just kept going out of his hand. And then really all 4 throws I thought showed something. Michael Swindle and Michael Beckham both talking about the back shoulder throw to Harbor. I mean, dude, I don't want to say that's like a super advanced throw, but it's not necessarily something most guys just naturally do either. Like generally back shoulder throws, first of all, when they're timed right, they're almost indefensible by a defense, but that takes normally a ton of reps. Who knows how many times he and Harbor have even been able to handle that, have that situation in practice. And it was like he kind of naturally just knew, instinctually is maybe even a better word, knew where to put the football and then had the physical ability to do it. So on the other end, I mean, we don't even need to do a show right now, Chris. Like everybody in the comments is like reading my mind, I feel like. The other end of it was Nick Harbor. You know, some guys maybe just watch that ball go flying by, right? They're maybe shocked by it. I think you can tell the story about reading Harbor's lips, but rather than just being like, you know, and being frozen, Harbor made an athletic play. Like I hear coaches say, be an athlete. He made an athletic play and made the catch for a guy who's not known as like this super, you know, this receiver who's got a ton of experience. I thought there was something to be said for that play on both ends. Really, there's something to be said for both touchdown plays, both at quarterback and in terms of the receivers catching the ball in Tyshawn Russell and then Nicholas Harbor.
Yeah, the Tyshawn Russell, I mean, Sellers threw that ball with about 2 or 3 yards to spare to the back of the end zone, which is pretty incredible. On that trajectory, it was incredible, but that is not an easy catch. Just running under that ball like that. You know, Russell had to kind of speed back up, get up to full speed, catch it over his shoulder. Great catch. And yeah, Harbor's reaction, it was you could see him and Sellers talking about it on the ESPN broadcast after the fact. And Harbor, it was funny doing the lip reading, but it was definitely an snap, here's the ball. But yeah, he made a great play. The thing about Sellers, man, I was just thinking of this. If you think about a lot of the best athletes, whatever sport, track, football, basketball, baseball, if you get a guy that just kind of makes incredible things just look easy, I think that's Lenora Sellers. He just, the plays he made, he seemed so under control, but made it look easy. And none of the things that he did were easy plays. I don't think not even the throw he snapped off to Eddie Lewis, not even just dropping back and letting that short ball to Peyton Mangrum go. Those were throws that some other freshman quarterbacks, heck, some experienced quarterbacks, some of them do not make those plays. He did them. He did them in his first game and made it look easy. So should be exciting stuff for Gamecock fans.
Yeah, we all have, if you played any sport, y'all know the guy who just shows up and pick something up like that. Like I feel like Sellers is that guy.
Yeah, none of us like that guy.
Yeah, but you
so
want that guy on your team.
you do want that
And
guy on your team.
you know, it's one of those things, and I'm not even saying that, like, he obviously has worked hard to get where he is, but those guys, it's more like I could practice something 100 times and still not be able to do it well. And then Sellers, you know, hey, here's a new concept for you. Can you put this ball here? And it's like, okay, coach, yeah, I can do that next time. And then it's like he just does it. And it's
Yeah.
you can tell
Cheat
from his
code.
reaction, Chris, and go watch his post game. I know you already said this, but for everybody listening, go watch his post game. He's just like, I mean, yeah, I was gonna run it, but then I was like, I figured I'll throw a touchdown.
I came back to the touchdown. That was the funniest thing. Like, and I
mean,
don't
what
even
the
know. Like, he knows
like,
what he's saying. He's not trying to be cocky. Like, he's just like, I was going to do this. I wasn't supposed to do that, and I was going to do this, but then I saw a touchdown, so like I just figured I'd score the touchdown. That seemed like a good option, and he's just able to
now
produce it.
now our chatters are reading each other's minds. One of them said, "This is back to back at the exact same moment. Cam Newton with glasses and Cam Newton without the cockiness." So, and hey, Lenoris he's confident, but he's also very humble. I think like he's one of those guys who kind of walks that line. Like he's not a huge talker. He's not a big. I mean, look at recruiting. He wasn't a big look at me guy. He was more, I'm just going to go show you, and I'm going to have 7 touchdowns and a half or whatever it was at one game, or one of his several games where he just straight up went off. But that guy's going to be fun to watch. Chris, are we all in on a 3rd or 4th and short Sellers package?
Please.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, we all want to see it. I mean, this is another interesting dynamic, Wes. You know, we're talking about the Kilgore, Eamon Worry, you know, DQ Smith, et cetera. But, you know, if you put another quarterback on the field, you're always either taking 7 off the field or you're putting him out at wide receiver where, no offense, Spence, he's not Luke Doty. You don't want Spencer Rattler playing wide receiver. You want him playing quarterback. But that said, especially for a team, West, that if you're in a completely obvious running situation, that is an intriguing option. But you also don't want to take 7 off the field. But man, easy to be excited about the future. It also has you wondering a little bit when you think about, especially the running ability. It has you thinking about the present, though, a little bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, not that you ever want to take 7 off the field, but a team that is going to struggle or has struggled around the football. Who knows how much progress they will make, right? I think you have to find some ways to try to give yourself an advantage. A quarterback run game is always a way to do that. And I don't want 7 as QB1 taking those hits. So I'd rather my 245-pounder, if it's already a just obvious, you probably want to run the football here. I think you gotta look at that if you're South Carolina. And people have asked about a red shirt. I don't even think you're considering a red shirt. I think that's not even part of the conversation. If this guy can help you in any way this year, then I think you do that. Man, we are way over. You know what? I want to hit. You got time, Chris, to go a little bit longer?
Yeah.
Let's hit on a few more of these freshmen. I know everybody had them buzzing, or they had everybody buzzing. Troball, Tree Babalade. You asked Spencer about them. What did he say? They were grown men.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the fun fan thing to say is like, hey, throw Tree and Tro in there. Let's roll. I don't think you do that to them going into Athens. Maybe you do that with one of them. I don't think you just say, hey, both freshmen start. But I do think as this year progresses, then absolutely, I will already say it feels like it's trending towards those guys playing a bunch. And then who knows where Marquis is in this convo as well. Like Marquis Anderson is going to help this team at some point this year if he can get back to full health.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the guy, Wes, that Shane Beamer, I've said this a million times, I feel like, broken record, but that's the guy above anybody else in the freshman class that Shane Beamer said a while back he is going to play, right? Like that was the one that he named. And so that kind of has you thinking, right? So look, we knew that on the offensive line, the door was open for shifts and tweaks in game one, after game one, depending on how it went. Obviously, it didn't go well. And so that, I think, accelerated some of the tweaks. Staff came in with a clear plan to play ball, to play Babalade, to use, some different combinations up front. They did that for the Furman game. Now they had that tape that they could go review on Saturday night, on Sunday, today, here on Monday, and then go roll out there and practice and try to. But I think it is still, Wes, it's an ongoing process. You don't really want to be here. You don't want to still be trying to find out what your best five is, but that is the reality of it. That's where they're at. And so could it be that whether it's against Georgia, is it one of them? Is it two of them? Is it those guys rotating in like we saw against Furman? Is it by the end of the year, you've got one or two freshman starters on the offensive line? That could be the case because these guys are young. You're going to have to deal with some growing pains. There's no doubt. Shane Beamer alluded to that. But they're also very, very talented players who don't look like your typical freshman up there.
Yeah, so I went and checked. While we were on air, South Carolina did send out game notes, Chris. Depth chart actually looks, I think it's exactly the same for the most part. I don't have the one from last week up to compare, but I don't see anything glaring. So I saw, Matt on YouTube said Tree isn't in the too deep. He should be. Matt, I wouldn't read into that one bit, honestly, because we all saw with our eyes on Saturday, like Tree is in the too deep. Whether he's in the official too deep, maybe not, but he was the next man up at left tackle. Troball was the next man up at guard. They got both those guys into the game fairly early. Did Ball go in one drive before Tree, or did they go in the same drive, Chris? Do you remember?
I can't recall off the top of my head.
I think Tro went
he
in
did.
first.
I think you're right.
And that's the guy, you pointed this out preseason. Ball was taking some first-team reps at times. I heard he was taking some first-team reps in practice last week. I'm just guessing they maybe decided to go with the little bit older guys to start the game and then just settle the freshmen in. But yeah, both those guys, whether they're on this official too deep or not. Yeah, see, this is why we got a great crowd here too, Chris. Jamie saying Steve Feek tweeted no changes on the depth chart. So yeah, it's the same depth. It's the same official depth chart as last week. The internal depth chart, I would imagine, looks slightly different. Are you with me on that, Chris?
Yeah, I think so, man. I mean, Ball, Babalade, those guys are going to be in the mix for sure. And heck, I would be kind of surprised if both of them did not play in some capacity. Not saying they're going to start, but in some capacity against Georgia, you would think those guys are going to play. It's also Monday. Remember? I mean, what we saw last week on the depth chart was not entirely reflective of what we saw out there against Furman. And so I think you got to bear that in mind as well. As much as we love depth charts, you got to keep that in mind too.
Yeah, the Gamecock Central projected depth chart looks a little bit different, I feel like. So we'll see what happens on Saturday. All right, Chris, give us one closing thought on South Carolina Furman while I queue up this ad read.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a closing thought. It was, I think it was a really good thing to win that game like you did. You didn't go in to the fourth quarter saying, hey, this game's in danger. You didn't walk in and have that nightmare with these new clock rules, games moving a little faster. where you're up 3 or you're down 7 in the fourth quarter to an FCS team. You're able to win. You're able to win comfortably. You're able to get a good look at some of your freshmen, rest some of your other guys, didn't play. You had starters that played, 40 snaps. That was a positive. You go not only escape, but you come away with a win, and you come away winning very, very comfortably.
For sure. Quick question on Elijah Griffin. Did the visit go well? Yes, it absolutely did. He was impressed with the atmosphere. Very good, sort of detailed interview with him on Gamecock Central. If you go back and hit the recruiting news feed there, go check it out. And if you're not a subscriber, Chris, $1 for your first month. Oh man, he had it fired up and ready
to go.
There you go, Chris. There's no way to put this up that it doesn't look weird. I feel like with our face.
Yeah, you got to move to the other side of it. Yeah.
So let's just how do we do this? Just point. So
there you go.
Kickoff sale, 50% off. We'll call it the big game sale. Georgia this week, 50% off your first year, or $1 for your first month if you are if you're not a subscriber already. If you are a subscriber, go read the article. Really good stuff, and he had a lot of good things to say about South Carolina fan base. So that was cool. Also, download the On3 app. Checking them all off, Chris. The On3 app. So there's one On3 app, but you select your team. Once you select South Carolina, it will pop up as being Gamecock Central. So download the app. The app itself is free, but you do need to obviously be a subscriber to take advantage of all the content on there. Like, you don't have to pay for the app, but you do need to pay for a subscription to read our content on the app. And Chris, I can't tell. That's not your Bird Dogs today, not your Bird Dogs shirt, at least.
I have the Bird Dogs shorts on, no doubt.
Right on brand.
Yep.
Birddogs.com/Gamecocks, or just go in and put in the promo code Gamecocks, and you will get I have to say this exactly correct for legal reasons, a free Bird Dogs Hydro Flask water bottle with your promo code Gamecocks. So that's cool. Everybody likes free stuff. Everybody likes comfortable clothes. I can't stop talking about the polo shirt. I've already gotten from my wife, "Oh, you're wearing that shirt again?" And I'm like, "Yes."
I get that a lot. I get that with the shorts. I'm going to wear it again.
Well, we're going to be in pictures. I know. I don't care. It's a comfortable shirt. It fits well. It's nice. And Chris, I know you've been rocking the shorts quite a bit as well, because it's like a gym short liner.
Yeah.
But professional on the outside.
Yeah, they're super nice. I'll tell you, Wes, my wife also giving me a semi-hard time about the shorts. They have been deemed the shorts that you were obsessed with. That is Bird Dogs. But, hey, that's a pretty good plug for Bird Dogs, because I am obsessed with them. I wear them all the time. You know what, Wes? While we're checking off everything, you know what goes really good with your Bird Dogs shorts? Let's say you finally got to wash the Bird Dogs shirt. Like, every now and then you got to wash it, so maybe take a day off, maybe take a few hours off. How about this? The re-release of the Bluff Road famous football club shirt designed by our buddy Kev Roche. Shout out, Kev. I know you're watching. Maybe a couple days late, but you are watching. You can get that at the Gamecock Central shop, Wes. Shop.GamecockCentral.net. Just re-released, 2 different colors. Gamecock Central members actually get 10% off their order. So you can get that, pair it with your Bird Dogs, and it's party time.
Yeah. Shout out Kev Roche. Hopefully he's watching live, not later on, man. But either way, that's cool. I got the Braves on in the background. Kev and his Sunday night baseball work is just amazing. Speaking of watching, though, shout out to Charter and Disney and ESPN and all the corporations for giving us our football back. So,
yep.
Thank you. I don't have to steal my brother's Hulu Live login anymore to watch ESPN.
Ooh, so that on there.
Well, I'm kidding, obviously, but that for sports fans, Chris, obviously that was needed.
Yes, big times for everybody out there that has Spectrum. So everybody can sing Kumbaya again. Everybody can watch college football. There is no doubt about it that you'll be able to watch the games this weekend going forward. Big game this weekend. Week 4 of college football is a really good one too, Wes. So everybody can rest easy now. We're good. You've heard about, and you heard from Spencer today. You heard about all our great partners. Everybody should leave happy now. There's no doubt.
No doubt, no doubt. Michael says you still have to buy YouTube for NFL. Well, before you had to buy DirecTV for NFL. So for the Sunday ticket, anyway. Although I haven't looked into that. Do you actually have to have a YouTube TV subscription? I thought they have a separate thing for NFL Sunday ticket too. I don't know. We got to get off here. It's been an hour and 20 minutes. I'm just talking at this point. Shout out to our sponsors. Shout out to our viewers. Big numbers. Strangely, y'all set our regular preview show record for viewers last week for the Furman game. I don't know what happened, but thanks. That's awesome. We appreciate it. Let's break the record again with our Georgia preview on Friday. And shout out to Garnet Trust and Spencer for hopping on. Always awesome to hear from Spencer. He's been very gracious with his time, and good stuff from him as always. So if you missed that earlier, you can always rewind back or just listen on the podcast, and you can catch the full interview with Spencer Rattler. So, all right, he's Chris. I'm Wes. Mike will be on Tuesday. We'll be back on Wednesday, and we will see you.